Okay, great. So now I'm going to go ahead and start calling up people who signed up to ask a question. Now, if your question has been asked and answered already by what we've discussed, that's fine. Just let me know that you're done. You don't need to ask a question. But we're going to go ahead and start. And so the first person that I'd like to call up is Erica, and then the next person will be John. So, so Erica, come on up. You'll have a minute to ask your question. And
hi, this has been very informative. I actually came here to get more information about the project, so I really appreciate the information that was provided. Is it possible to go over a little bit more of the design details, though, even some that are conceptual? Because some of the slides did provide some information, but it's hard to tell in terms of like where the project that would be. Understanding that this is all conceptual, do you have like a better slide that shows kind of some of the design features, if you will? And then follow up to that, though, in terms of being able to provide input before the mitigated big deck goes out for public comment. How is there going to be another meeting where we could find out more details, or is it better just to go through the email process? More of the how to provide information. Thank you.
Before you go away, are there design specifics as far as, are you looking at the where the trail is falling in relation to the levee, how wide the trail is?
Yeah, some of the,
a little bit of everything.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, in a minute. I need to cheat my time on this minute because I need to flip to a different PowerPoint presentation real quick. So as far as why the trail is located where it is, I went into a little bit of flood control agency policies. That's really what it comes down to is we're very constrained as far as the location that we can place that trail. If we can't go on the top, there's really only one other place that we've identified that it can go. If somebody wants to provide another idea, we're happy to look at it. But from what we've seen, there isn't a whole lot of other options. Regarding in the stretch that doesn't have any road on the bottom, this portion of trail, we're locating it specifically, again, based off of flood control agency concerns. We're setting it a certain distance off the top of the trail to make sure that the strip that's left here can still be mowed and maintained by them, to ensure that we're far enough down the levee that we can't see over the top into people's yards, and to ensure that we're not so far down the levee that we're impacting more than we absolutely have to on this water side here. Again, we're maintaining an elevation to make sure that we're over the highest water events, just to ensure that the integrity of that levee is maintained. And then going into cross-section, this is a concept that really is being introduced here. This is spawned off of input that we've gotten from people around. Again, this is showing an 8-foot wide path, 4 feet in either direction. We just heard that, or addressing one of the concerns before, this is a multi-use path. This is a city facility. It's maintained by city forces. That nice stenciling saying, please stay on the shoulder and walk opposing traffic doesn't exist in the city. That's a county feature that we wouldn't be putting in on this trail. We added an extra wide shoulder on here just so we can allow more room. This is an area, though, our total cross-section here is 16 feet. Potentially, we can squeeze this shoulder down in a balance with maintaining natural resources as well.
And I asked the city to make sure that after today that they're going to put this PowerPoint on their website so that you can take a look at it more closely after this meeting so that you can ask more questions and look at it. So John, I'd like to ask you to come up next, and then on deck is Mary Lou.
Thank you. First off, I just wanted to thank for law enforcement, all the work they do, and that's been very good. My name is John Allen. I've been likened to a fearmonger in some sources and that, but I'm grounded in history. I've been practicing history for over 30 years. I did a lot of intensive seminar work at Sac State for my master's, and we've got a problem in River City. if you need an analog, it's the Great Depression. Now, admittedly, the Great Recession wasn't that bad by comparison, but then as far as things go, we had the second highest rate of homelessness in the country. It was because of weather, transportation, and the river system. At one point, there was a solid Hooverville camp all the way out to Fair Oaks. That potential can still happen. The past is prologue, as they say. So what is the city really going to do about this expansion, and how are they going to keep the camps from expanding into this area?
So I really appreciate people's concerns about homelessness. When I started campaigning, I said that homelessness was the biggest issue facing the city, and I was absolutely correct. The city is really not the respondent to indigence or drug and alcohol abuse or mental infirmity. Those responsibilities really fall to the county. Nonetheless, because our impacts from homelessness are so severe, the city has allocated millions of dollars already, and in fact, we opened in our district, District 3, largely due to my effort, we opened the winter triage shelter, which has actually moved quite a few people off of the Parkway. I would like to point out that our homeless population in Sacramento falls right around 3,500 people chronically homeless, 2,000 outdoors on any given night. In every other major West Coast city, those numbers top 10,000 people. And it's because of the efforts that we're taking that we're holding steady. And believe me, our intent is full steam ahead over the next 3 years to drop that population by at least 2,000 people.
Thank you. Mary Lou come up, and then Dorothy is next. And just to let everyone know, we have about 35 minutes left of our time today. So
I want to thank the panel and everyone that's here today. I'm a resident of Coloma Terrace, which is approximately a mile to a mile and a half west of here. However, my husband and I come over here, what? Thank you. My husband and I come over here to walk simply because of the natural habitat that it offers. We find it just wonderful to observe birds, hear them as they fly over. Occasionally see a sea lion in the river, see turtles. Just walk along the Beaver Trail and see what they have done. And I just would ask that if you have to pave it, please put it on top of the levee. And I don't just ask this for myself, but for the current generation and the generations that will come after, that they have a natural habitat and area that is not paved. Thank you very much.
okay, so we have Dorothy now, and then Horacio.
Hi everybody, my name is Dorothy Orland and I am a dog walker. I've been walking for 30 years right down here. And I guess what I want to bring up is responsibility. In my experience, and just my experience, I avoid paved trails. And I'll tell you why, because they're very dangerous. I have walked by Sac State. I've walked many other places where the trail has been paved with my dog on a leash, and it's extremely dangerous. You just want to stay away from there. Presently, I am walking over the soccer fields off of Power Inn Road. There are many, many homeless campments back there. I am very safe with the homeless. And so I just wanted to bring up that point. Who is going to assure me, if indeed this paving does take place by Glen Hall Park, who is going to assure me of my safety? You print up something here and I see one little bicyclist on the icon here. That isn't the way bicyclists are. Right now at Glen Hall Park, there are a lot of irresponsible bicyclists, and they're riding on the other trails where we walk our dogs. And in my experience, I have stopped in the middle of the trail because it's only couple feet wide. And bicyclists don't have, some of them didn't have the responsibility to get off and let me pass. So what's going to assure that we're not going to have that kind of irresponsible bicycle riding with really huge numbers of bicyclists? That we who live here can get across the levee and how we use the park. Okay, thanks.
Thank you for the question. That is a question that we actually get a lot about bicyclist behavior on the trail. It's something that the city is actively looking at. We're thinking about doing something called the CHARM campaign. It's been done in Atlanta on the Atlanta Beltline. It's a great way that community members and bicyclists can get together and talk about what are the proper behaviors, or how do we share the space, whether it's 8 feet, 10 feet, or 12 feet of asphalt. And then we also want to note that we do have examples of a lot of trails that are already paved that have access points across. So for example, if you were going across to the foot trails through the area, I've walked the area, I know that there are a lot of, like the Beaver Trail, there's a lot of those out there, and crossing over should not be any more of an issue than it is crossing over at Howe or Watt or Sunrise. When I bring my kayak over at Sunrise, it's still feasible to pass, and we don't have a demonstrated issue. But if there is an issue, we will come out and we will address it. Thank you.
Okay, so then after Horatio, we have Lynette.
Hi everybody, my name's Horacio Morath, and I was formerly a firefighter in Tahoe as a wildland firefighter, and I know what fire is. I fought them. And my real concern is that some of these houses real close to that trail are shake roof, and I've seen embers fly quite a ways. That's one concern that I have. So I have a slight disagreement with how safe or how unlikely it is, because what I see every time I see a fire, I hear the helicopters. I run out there with my camera and I photograph them, and there's a definite relationship to the proximity of the fire and paved areas. So you get people that smoke, and believe it or not, people that smoke on bicycles, and they don't have ashtrays on their bicycles, so they toss them into the grass. And I see that regularly riding the bike trail, which I do frequently. And the second item I would like to say is that I ride my bicycle to Meadowview Boulevard or Meadowview Road every day, rain or shine, 10 miles each way to work. And before that, it was 10 miles of riding downtown on the streets, H Street, J Street, and so forth. It is very necessary to improve areas that are not these, affluent places that we have here with people riding with their $10,000 bicycles way over the speed limit. So there's two things that I think should be mitigated that I didn't find quite answered. One would be the issue of fires that close to the houses, and the improvements that so-called bicycle trail deserts are throughout the city. Because I ride the streets and they're extremely necessary for improvements.
Thanks, Horacio. So first I want to address the equity issue, which has been brought up twice today, as this is a gentrified trail in a rich neighborhood, which is not the case, in my opinion anyway. The City Council recently allocated $2.3 million to buy easements along the Sacramento River Parkway, as well as the RT Board donated the property that they own for the Del Rio Trail, both of which go down to Meadowview and Florin, so less affluent areas of the city. The point is that we're trying to create connectivity amongst all neighborhoods. I've also heard, opinions that paving this trail will bring less desirable low-income people into River Park. So, it cuts both ways. I think that the real issue here is that we're trying to create an amenity that creates connectivity amongst all neighborhoods. As far as the fire goes, Horacio, I will get back to you on that. So I'll work with FD. We don't have a representative of our fire department here. The burns that we've had on the American River Parkway, we suppose were mostly started by homeless campfires. You say differently, so I will find out what the truth of the matter is so that we don't argue over rhetoric or opinion, but rather start working with the facts. So I'll work with FD to get an answer for you.
Right. thank you. So now we have Lynette, and then Doug is next. And we have about 25 people that want to speak today, so we'll try to get through as many as we can.
I thank you for all of you coming here and addressing our issues. Adam, you showed a figure with crime in relationship to the paved trail in the pocket area. Why not show us, crime in the paved and unpaved areas of our area here? And I also have another question. I've been on the county's website with the ranger activity, and I see a lot of serious crimes, and one in particular, they found a couple of loaded shotguns at a homeless camp. And there's a lot of things that go on that I don't think people are aware of. So I encourage everyone to go to that website and take a look at the crimes that the county posts, the ranger activity. It's pretty serious. So eyes on the trail are great during the day, but what at night? And if the rangers aren't 24/7 and it's only the city, what good is that going to do us? I'm not feeling very secure about it.
Addressing the question directed to me as to why did I use that particular area here. The challenge in comparing crime to an area before and after you build a trail is we need an area where we just built a trail to look at a history before and a history after. And there's generally a far enough time in between those that there are a lot of factors that can change. The reason I picked that spot is because right there's a dichotomy of a paved trail and an unpaved trail right next to each other in a neighborhood that shares similar characteristics otherwise. So it is the best representation I can find of a before and after. Regarding the crime side of things, I will hand it off to Vic.
Hi, my name is Sergeant Dan Pito. I work for the Sacramento County Regional Parks. And just to try and address that issue with the crime stats, relatively speaking, the American River Parkway is a very safe area. We do have some crime. We do have teams that work in the homeless camps, and we do a lot of probation and parole searches. And when you see that information about guns in a homeless camp, usually it's become someone that was found during a probation search. But as far as the safety at nighttime, we're not 24/7, as it's clearly stated, but the Sacramento Sheriff's Department responds to calls for service in our area and jurisdiction after we leave, as well as Sacramento Police Department. So if you have a need for us, somebody's going to respond, and it's relatively a safe environment to be most of the time.
Okay, so we have Doug and then Susan. And so just as a reminder, please limit you to one question to the panel, please.
Great. Doug Carson, thank you also very much. This is fantastic for everyone in our area. And this question that I have has been touched on a little bit, but I don't think it's really been addressed completely. And that is the American River Bike Trail has little to no enforcement of speed limits. I find this a major issue. I do a lot of walking. I love cycling. I am just not capable of putting my body on a bike, so I have to walk. And if I'm walking, there are a lot of cyclists who do not pay attention to the people around them and our route. Not everyone, please. You can't do that across the board. But that does exist. So is there a way to kind of watch the speeding limits of the cyclists? Is there a plan in place to do that?
My name is Wade Irving. I'm the commander of the law enforcement services for the park rangers for the county. In specific, since we have most of the area that you're referring to with the bicycles, we are training multiple officers to do LiDAR enforcement. And in doing so, we're doing informational stops on people and making them realize that they're exceeding the speed limit out there in the parkway. So our plan is to train more of our staff to use those items and then ultimately talk with the court system and make sure that they will file those violations. But we want to do it in an informative way first so that everybody doesn't think, hey, we're just out there trying to cite cyclists and specifically focus on one party that's using the bike trail. Does that help answer that question? Thanks.
Okay, so we have Susan up and then Bailey.
Thank you all for being here. This is the bike master plan of 2016, and it seems that District 3 did not participate in this because it's not shown there. I have a business in Oak Park next to an elementary school, and the kids can't ride to school safely. And I'm glad that you're you're thinking of the city, because I think these funds could be better spent down Stockton Boulevard or anywhere in Oak Park, Meadowview. There's a multitude of programs showing that they are needing funding for those kinds of projects. And I was glad that the bike guy, my neighbor, was able to ride to his school, to his job. Kids in Oak Park can't do that. And that's heartbreaking. And to think about it's wrong. And you mentioned Stephen Clark. And that's one of the reasons why we have this upset in our community, because we have not treated every neighborhood fairly. And we need to do that.
Thank you. I'm happy that people are reading the bike plan, which is exciting because most people don't read those documents. This is not the only project that we are working on. We're actually doing a study of Stockton Boulevard. We're putting in bike lanes on Mack Road. We are working on Florin Road, Marysville Boulevard, East El Camino. There are many places in the city actually where we do have projects. And one of the big goals that's coming out of the bike plan is to ensure we have an equitable distribution of how we invest in our walking and biking facilities. And I can tell you, I promise, as a city staff person who works on walking and biking, that's one of my personal missions, to make sure that it is safe for people of all economic statuses to be able to get where they want to, how they want to, by walking, by biking, getting on transit, or driving.
Let's do it now.